Hey everybody, KMO here, sitting outside. I'm sitting at the picnic table right outside my apartment, which is near the street, so we're likely to hear the sounds of what these days is called toxic masculinity. You know, I had planned to talk about streaming services, and here I am going off on toxic masculinity. Well, I'm not going off. I'm just going to relate a quick anecdote, and then maybe I'll talk about streaming services. Yesterday, I walked down to my nearby convenience store. It's also a gas station. They sell beer and wine and hard liquor. It's a licensed liquor store there. And I went down at about this time of day. Well, maybe a little earlier. I went down around, between 5:30 and 6. And all the blue collar guys, the ones who are in the trades, as it were, people building things or repairing things or doing the sorts of labor that I don't know if it's considered to be skilled or unskilled, but if it's considered unskilled, it's absurd, plumbing, electrician, even entry-level jobs of building, the things I can't do. So there's a certain admiration that I have for the guys who didn't go to college, who found a way to interface with the economy, with just a high school education or less, and who have managed to stay off of heroin in these weird times, and are just going to work and doing their job. And yet, when I go down to the it's not a quickie mart, I forget what it's called exactly, but when I go down there, particularly at that time of day, when all of the guys, most of them younger than me, but a lot of them, with like thick, deep cracks in the backs of their neck because they spend so much time out in the sun, and they've gotten burn after burn after burn, and then, tan after tan after tan, and they're just, they're like leathernecks. Except, the leathernecks were Marines, they wore an actual leather collar. That's why they were called leathernecks. But these guys just have, they've earned it. They've earned that leather neck. I feel really uncomfortable around those guys. And, of course, they're on a spectrum. Not the spectrum, but a spectrum. So all of them drive vehicles that, I don't drive. And it's not, the vehicle I drive, I need a truck of some kind, but I like a light truck, and I'm certainly not going to put a lot of money in it, and I'm not going to change the suspension or do anything with the exhaust system so that it makes more noise or anything like that. And not all of these guys do, but a lot of them do. So I'm in there, and I can hear the people behind the counter who can converse easily with them and converse easily with me, and I admire those folks, also much younger than me, behind the counter. This being Vermont, even the sort of hardcore, blue-collar, leatherneck dudes are totally, maybe not in their heart of hearts, but certainly in their outward behavior, they are very accepting of transgender people, because the two people working the counter last night and many nights, I honestly don't know their gender. And I've had many, pleasant exchanges with them, and it's just not the thing I'm going to ask somebody at a cash register in a store like that. I don't think I'm going to get around to streaming services. Anyway, I'm there. The blue-collar guys are all getting off work, buying beer, getting ready to, go relax or do what they're going to do. And then I'm walking up my hill, and several pickup trucks roll by that are raised up, exhaust changed somehow so that they make more noise. Some of them painted black with all kinds of weird symbols on them, and tinted windows, and just big knobbly tires. Like one of these tires, I'm sure, costs as much as my whole truck. And I'm walking up the hill, just watching these and hearing these loud, and to my way of thinking, obnoxious and really wasteful, absurd vehicles proceed by. And just the phrase toxic masculinity jumps into my head, and I think, toxic masculinity, I guess, is just, it's the term du jour for what I would just call young idiots. Young men with stupid priorities, young men who have bought into an overly masculine but also overly consumer-oriented sort of self-definition through possessions, through technology sort of mindset. And so they're driving around in vehicles which, you probably couldn't trade the vehicle for a house, but you could certainly trade the vehicle for a very substantial down payment on a house. And I imagine a lot of these guys are just living in, apartments or rental situations of some kind, or possibly still with their parents or whatnot. And I realize I have so little in common with these guys if I have to carry on a 2-minute conversation with one of them, it is a stretch for me. It's sort of play acting, and you know, it's an exercise and not a really enjoyable one. So I don't connect with them. I don't really feel as though I'm part of their culture. I realize that because, you know, somebody who is in their mid-30s and who's been working the same job in a location like this, you know, a construction type job, or some sort of building job, or some sort of, you know, skilled physical labor, they're probably making pretty good money, like pretty good money. So in terms of finances, in terms of, you know, how much money they make, you know, their income, their cash flow, they're probably well above me. And I'm well above them in terms of education. And there's just this very, very clear gulf between me and them. And yet, to my ears, the term toxic masculinity, one, I don't think it applies to all of them, because, you know, not all of them are young idiots. Not all of them are all that young anymore. And not all of them are idiots, even though, you know, they come from a class which breeds a lot of conspicuous idiots. But I don't resonate with attacks on them. I don't resonate with the phrase toxic masculinity, even though I recognize and have experienced and certainly witnessed plenty of, I think, behavior which could conceivably and fairly be called toxic masculinity. I just don't like the phrase. It comes off to me as an overly broad criticism of people based primarily on their gender. I mean, you don't have to invoke the notion of masculinity to criticize bad behavior. So it's a weird relationship I have with this class of people, because I don't feel like I'm part of them. I don't, to be, you know, perfectly honest and fair about it, I don't much like them. But at the same time, I don't like what I consider to be indiscriminate and gender-based attacks on them. So streaming services, no, I'm not going there. Maybe tomorrow. There'll be another one of these tomorrow, at least one. Actually, tomorrow is Friday, so I'll be talking with Colin over at the TV station, and maybe I'll do a supplemental. And if not, there's always Saturday. Talk to you soon.